Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm the end. I'm the end. I'm the end. Are you ready to ride the Are you ready to ride the frequency? To ride the frequency?
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Riding the Frequency for part 2 of my talk with Nancy Tertre. Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of my really cool chat with a really cool lady. Welcome back, Nancy.
Appreciate it. Really cool chat with you too.
I'm really enjoying this. Wow. Okay, so where did we leave off? At lions and tigers and particulate trails. Oh my.
Oh,
I think that's where we stopped, isn't it, Dorothy?
could have been thereabouts. Yeah.
There are lots of them in Kansas, I hear. Kidding. Not
Don't know,
really.
never been.
I've never been to Kansas either. The only time Kansas ever came up was out of my mouth in some dialogue where I asked somebody if they're from KCK or KC Mo. And that's about it. And we're done with Kansas.
Yeah, it's I have no connection at all, which is interesting.
Dorothy is everybody's connection to Kansas, I think.
Yeah.
But more, the Wizard of Oz. I think there are lots of Wizards of Oz, and they're all trying to get there first, and that's just not tolerable.
So how would you define a wizard?
Oh, how would I define a wizard as
Yeah.
opposed to a witch? I mean, what how are you poking for? Um,
I'll tell you why I'm asking. I went in 2019, I did training in psychokinesis in Russia.
hmm,
And what turned out to be very bizarre, but there are many bizarre things, but among them was the fact that all of our trainers and everybody who belonged to this organization that we thought was a legitimate organization that essentially turned out to be a cult said, and originally I thought maybe it's just because, it's a linguistic problem. They're Russian, they're trying to speak English, and everybody's saying, oh, our fearless leader is, he's a wizard. Even his closest, right-hand woman who was the director of this organization referred to him as a wizard. And it just kind of stuck in my head. I'm thinking, okay, well, he's supposed to be psychic. I know that. But being psychic, does that qualify you to be called a wizard? I mean, wizard is supposed to be male and
right,
sort of male version of, the witch, female.
right. With I feel like there is a self-imposed entitlement with a self-proclaimed anything. So if you're gonna refer to yourself as a wizard, so now I don't know whether this guy started that himself or whether he showed some natural ability toward psychic activity, and somebody went, Oh, he's a wizard. Now he's special because he's got that special connection. We need to follow him. Like this goes back into the somebody needs to be a leader and we need to be saved. Like, what is that? I think if he is a wizard and he started a cult, he's using it to, in his self-interest, to take advantage of people and giving them one thing and taking back 12. Forget two. That's what it feels like to me. I think there are people who are actually tuned in and do defy what we perceive to be mm, rules of like how do Tibetan monks levitate? That's not fake. It's frequency stuff,
Mhm.
you know? So I think there's a fine line if you're going to describe a wizard that's imposed himself on a collective for the purpose of controlling them, like, you know, the the little plays we talked about, the morality plays. It's a certain form of convincing people that, you know, they need fish and you're the big fish, like, and there's never going to be a fishing rod offered, you know. But I think that there is probably such a thing as what would be described as wizardry that's a perfectly organic, very plugged in ability, you know, those people who are actually born into a society that isn't tainted by the narratives that everybody uses to try to vie for being the one leader guy, because that'll.
I, I I think it's interesting because as soon as I heard them call him a wizard, I'm thinking, wizard? Wizard? What do you mean? First of all, I've never seen him do anything wizardly. He doesn't even act like what I would imagine would be a wizard if I were to imagine a wizard.
Right, which is why you were probably feeling a disconnect and wondering if there's something that's being lost in translation somewhere, because this is not.
And what they were doing was they were worshiping him. And I thought that was really interesting because, first of all, I'm sure you know shamans, okay? And I do also. And my daughter, who has been sort of she's what I would consider to be a shaman. She's really, really good at what she does in several different areas. And she has made many trips. You know, she gets flown to Central America, South America. She gets flown out to LA. She's just really good at what she does. And on a very profound level. But what I always understood about shamans is a real shaman never calls himself a shaman.
Right. He doesn't have
And
to.
so I would imagine, an alternative term would be a wizard. But if you're a wizard, you would never say, I'm a wizard.
Right. And alternately, a shaman doesn't give you one thing and take two back. A shaman gives information and allows you to
Right,
like a good shrink lets you asks a question that would trigger you to figure it out. Like
right.
this guy who took me through the Bible thing yesterday, he gave me questions to prompt me and I was kind of for a minute and then he said something and I went, "Oh." And then I said it and he said, "Yes." So, like that, giving you the gift of a new level of understanding.
Yeah, it's a gift, not a control.
Right, there's a difference. And then, you know, like we said before, everything is, or I said, everything is transactional. You know, looking in somebody's eyes and smiling and receiving a look back, that's a transaction. So a shaman is going to give, and I think the transaction is seeing somebody light up and wake up and alive themselves in an energetic way, you know, more than when they showed up. And that's enough of a gift, right? For me. And it's not taking anything. It's observing something neutrally as a result of something you offered
So,
organically.
so what would you say about let's say, 33rd degree Mason or higher? Is that a wizard?
I don't know enough about Freemasonry right away, like the words Illuminati, control, intellect, materialists, and imposition of control over because knowing rules as opposed to allowing something to organically happen past the information. It's a more controlling way of being in symbiosis with source. And I feel like there's a relationship to if you can keep a secret, you'll go high up there because there's
Well,
something that's shh,
it's the secrets.
something shh,
It's
not
the
you.
secrets of the that get packaged as training. And so to each higher level, because of your training, you automatically reach a title.
Like beating
Okay.
a level of a game the way they do it, though. They make it addictive. They don't make it
It is
organic.
addictive, absolutely. And you could see that. I mean, you could see it, on a Freemason level, the Rosicrucian level, on the Scientology level. You could see it in all those, because that's what they do. And the thing that gets dangled in front of your face
Power.
is, oh, that people are, no, I don't know about that. Maybe some, but what gets dangled is the secret knowledge. Because if you finally reach the level with the really secret knowledge, you too can be a wizard.
I mean, to me, that like parallels with the Enquirer. And if you read the Enquirer and get all the secrets and know something really personal about the celebrity, it makes you feel important and powerful because you've got information. It's like, how is that not some kind of wizard National Enquirer kind of Madison Avenue spin on it to make people keep wanting more?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that is
true.
that is that a weird thing to say?
No, not at all. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, I'm thinking that I got friends who are completely absorbed in, X, Twitter, former Twitter.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
because of the flow of secret knowledge.
I'm bad at all those things because I don't get secret knowledge off of my social media platforms. For me, um, it's just a way of driving people right now to the music that I make. And I mean, it's a way of being seen and heard for me, just like everybody else. Um, but I feel like people who want to hear what's flowing through my rapping will show up. Like, so I'm not hiring people to boost my likes and I'm not, oh, the next level, I can hit 10K. Ooh, can I hit 20K? It's not, I don't do that. That's not how, like, it doesn't use me is the thing.
Yeah, totally get it.
Here's a question
Sure.
to randomly switch gears and change lanes. Can I, may I please? And you, feel free to say we're not talking about that, which I told you I didn't want to make you say that, but I might right now. What were you doing in Antarctica? What are you doing in Antarctica?
Oh, that's
What,
it.
what's there?
I always wanted to go there. Always, always. And so, uh, yeah, since I'm getting old, I figured, it's do it now. I mean, now or never kind of thing. So, um, it was interesting because we did it was a cruise. We did a very large loop. Most people do not get a chance to do this loop because of usually really unusual weather, and the ships don't really go there much. But we did a loop that went from the Falkland Islands, which I know the Argentinians don't like to call it that, to um, the South Georgia Islands, to the Shetland Islands, Shetland, and then Sandwich Islands, and then the Antarctic Peninsula. And what was so interesting to me was that the captain and all of the officers and all the staff, everybody who's working on this boat, said they had never in ever seen such incredibly wonderful weather that had permitted us to do, every time we stopped, 2 expeditions. Normally, because, and I saw this firsthand. I mean, you have weather there that will change within, I kid you not, like 1 minute, from rain to snow to hail to sunshine to, windy to completely still to back to hail to, I mean, it's, you just don't know what's going to come because there are these huge, extraordinary mountains everywhere and huge clouds, huge skies, and really ferocious winds like I've never seen before in my life. And of course, that's why everybody talks about the uh, the dangers of the Drake Passage, which is
Mhm.
going around that southern tip of South America where the Pacific meets the Atlantic. And and we got the opportunity. I mean, it was crazy. We had the opportunity. The captain brought us right around Cape Horn, which normally you would never be doing because you don't want to be anywhere near there. And so we saw it, and it was phenomenal. And there was just something extraordinary about it that we were able to do that. We were able to do a lot of things. When I had left there in the southern town that you leave from normally is Ushuaia in Argentina, and in just driving around the first day, and I'm wiped out. I was from came down from Buenos Aires, and um, we're driving around on some little bus going to lunch or something, and I'm just shooting pictures in the weird weather of these extraordinary mountains that I've never seen mountains like they're black and they have spires and I just never seen anything like them. Anyway, I looked at my photos later. I got a picture of a saucer UFO on one, which Mary Joyce, who does Skyships Over Cashiers, she published that. Um, and then on my trip all the way to the peninsula, I'm just taking pictures. I couldn't even see my iPhone because the light was so brilliant. I couldn't see my phone. That's how crazy that was. And the weather, either, I've got snow and hail attacking my phone or winds that are whipping it out of my hands. I mean, I just couldn't see what I was taking pictures of. I tried to take good pictures. And there's wildlife everywhere. These giant elephant seals and furry seals, and there was one colony of 350,000 penguins. It was more than, I forget, it was like 7 miles of continuous penguins. Um, just penguins. Uh, so I'm trying to take pictures and I'm just sort of clicking and whatever. And then I started to look at my pictures more closely, and there's weird stuff going on in them. I've got some pictures of, I've never seen stuff like this, although I showed it to a friend of mine who started showing stuff off the internet that seems to
Was
be,
similar. Have you shown this publicly anywhere?
no, I haven't shown it to, no. But they're cylinders, they're vertical, and they're 3D. And there's not just one in the sky, there are several. I also got other stuff. I thought I couldn't figure out, these are you can't see much because it's in a distance in the sky. It's over mountains with eh, these black things. And I thought, well, okay, those must be birds maybe, but there are no wings on them. There are no appendages that I can make out. And yes, when you have a digital thing, normally it's going to pixelate a little bit, but it looked a little odd. And there are many of them in kind of potentially formations. Birds do formations too, I know that. But anyway, I showed them to a friend of mine who is involved in the UFO field, and he said, no, he said, no way are those birds. So that was kind of interesting. And so this was, and they seemed to be following along my route anyway, or maybe I was just taking pictures. They happened to be there, and I just happened to be on their route. I don't know. And then we got down to Antarctica, and I know everything about all the stuff, okay? but I didn't feel it. I felt, for the first time in my life, I felt like I'd gone home,
Wow.
which was, I had, I mean, I've been to places all over the world and many beautiful, beautiful places. Um, but whatever it was, my whole being just felt like, oh,
I've heard people say that about Egypt and other places. Like you said, oh, I went to Göbekli Tepe and it felt like, whatever it is. I don't think I've ever heard anybody describe going to Alaska as like going home. I
or
mean,
Antarctica.
I'm sorry, Antarctica. I have pyramid on my head because that's the next question I have is how many pyramids do you think are underground in Antarctica that are generating all kinds of frequencies that are actually functioning for purposes of use for mm, recharging stations?
I've seen I've seen pyramids all over the world.
Mhm.
I have seen some hills in different places around the world or mountains that will actually take the shape of like four-sided pyramids. That is possible. It can be a natural phenomenon. I was looking at, some of the photographs of these massive square entrances in this sort of western, I believe they're over on the western side where the mountains are of Antarctica. Um, which, by the way, I had no idea that the whole western, essentially half of Antarctica is a ring of volcanoes. I didn't know that. At any rate, so I was looking at because I wanted to think about those. They're very square looking. And I know from having, taken all kinds of expeditions now all over the peninsula area, there are a lot. I've been through huge caves. Okay, they're huge, and they're creations that the ice will make that you've never seen in your life. Um, but the more I looked at those photos, the more I was thinking, no, no, they have almost what you would imagine would be sort of like wooden timbers around like a mine shaft opening. Um, I don't think there's any way those are natural whatsoever. And the pyramids that are beginning to show, that makes perfect sense to me. And that whole area is an area, it's volcanic because you have, tectonic issues going on over there.
A lot of
So
energy.
you have a lot of energy. You also have uh, islands, because there are tons of islands there that have literally shifted over from, like South Africa and have made it all the way down to underneath South America over time. So it's not it's for me it's not any stretch of imagination to say, okay, yeah, okay, pyramids, that makes total sense to me. Um,
Do you
I did.
think that there are pockets that are as big as these massive caves that you saw that could be even bigger in some kind of like the honeycomb under the earth theory, where there are spaces in which one could house several hundred thousand living something?
I don't see why not, because you have the mountains, okay? So you have an ability to go into actual earth. You also have the ability to go under ice. And I just was looking at a thing of these couple of people who lived in New York State, upstate, who just built an igloo in their backyard. And I was watching them build this igloo, and they're saying, "Yeah, it's really warm out here. It's really nice." So that wouldn't surprise me either. Yeah, you stay warm that way.
And
You
what's to
could,
say these civilizations perhaps didn't get there a while long about time ago, and decided never maybe to come back up to the surface because it was just as convenient to stay down there and maybe better for some reasons. that propagated.
Depends if you don't want to be seen.
And what's to say that geopolitical issues don't have underlying exopolitical issues, meaning pyramids and technology under the ground that are either active or inactive, where like I don't like using the word they, but someone is knowledgeable about technology that can be disabled should there be a reason to on either end. Like
Say
again,
that
like
again?
transactional, like why I'm just feeling into stuff and words are just coming out of my mouth. And I know it sounds outrageous, but sometimes the more outrageous thing is the actual nail on the head. So I don't know, man.
Listen, I've read a lot about, Admiral Richard Byrd, that the battle, like 30, I think it was ships, or also the planes that were lost in the battle with alleged UFOs, that he acknowledged until he got up to Chile, and suddenly, the kibosh was put on any public statements thereafter.
Yeah, because he was
Um,
crazy and then later died unalived himself because he was crazy. Mm,
um, uh,
sorry.
do
I'm
I,
so sorry.
with technology that nobody had seen and nobody believed in at the time for sure, and nobody wanted to acknowledge whether you're on the winning side or the losing side. And so of course I've read all about the theories of reptilian societies, of other ET societies down there, of Fourth Reich societies being down there. I knew when
And
I mean,
breakaway civilizations is the next thing that comes. Like, and what's to say that we're not a spacefaring fracture of us is not already spacefaring and doing weird stuff like on Mars and the moon. Nobody sees what's going on the dark side except the people who are occupying it.
I think we have been. I
I
don't really,
think
I
I
don't
think
question it
we've
too much.
how have we not been?
Mhm. No, I agree with you. Um,
I'm so sorry. I keep interrupting.
yeah, no, that's all right.
Not really. So yeah, the things that go on the whole West Side, the whole thing, and I sidetracked you with questions about what do you think is under there. Um,
you, you know,
what were you feeling? I mean, to get out of, I mean, you're looking
I
at photos
thought
and stuff, but forget what you're thinking and what your eyes are seeing. What's the feeling besides feeling like you were back home? What do you think? What do you feel is going on down there? What is happening? There's
I've read, you know about I think it's called the ice cube.
I know about a neutrino detector that they don't know exactly what it is. Like, like this somebody who is not well liked consistently gives this as a parallel. If I gave you a gun and you'd never seen one before, and I told you it was a bullet storage unit and didn't tell you that if you pull the trigger, you can kill somebody with it. Somebody told you the neutrino detector was there to detect micro movements, nano movements, because we're trying to whatever. But they don't also tell you that if you flip it on, there are these DOMs that go down and generate how many volts of electromagnetic pulses through the planet, which probably gets jolted every time. And gee, oops, there's a earthquake in Christchurch. What? What do you mean, oops?
Sure. I mean, I've heard all of that.
I don't
I've
know.
read about them.
I mean, you don't get emotional about it, but I guess by trade, you're tempered, and by trade, I wear my emotions on my face, my sleeve, my nose, my hair, everywhere.
Well, so let me ask you this: What is it that brings out an emotion in you? What is the emotion in you?
Specific to Antarctica, specific to
into that having that type of technology, assuming that exists.
if somebody were to say that that's down there and that the gentleman who I quoted um parallel was accurate, then I would say it's business as usual. There's stuff going on down there that is being used for the self-interests and greed, and there's some kind of transactional something going on to which the public has not been informed. It's been going on for a long time, and the longer it goes, the bigger the lie, the bigger or the bigger the gap between the truth and the fantasy that the narrative is trying to like like there's a crevice, like I'm getting into my weird feeling thing, like feeling crevice, I'm feeling information gap, I'm feeling ignorance, I'm feeling naivete, I'm feeling like glee in that somehow, I'm feeling like getting away with stuff vibe. I feel like makes me sad.
When I got down to
Betrayal is a
Antarctica,
good word, maybe betrayed and sad and forsaken, sold out, and it's gone so far that it can't stop or something.
I understand that. There was something I thought that I would feel the technology down there. And I thought I would feel something that felt destructive down there. I know about the history of Antarctica, and I kind of understand, you know, and this is my lawyer aspect, how it got divvied up and where the interests were with each country. By the way, it's the only country in the world where you don't need a passport.
Look, it's the analogy that my friend used to give me for the music business and owning your own copyrights. And then when you get it's like there's a buffalo. Everybody wants a piece of the buffalo. How are you going to cut it up in a way that feels like there's equanimity in it? It's hard to do. And then on top of it, keep it shh. So the idea that it's so secret, but you also don't need a passport, that's conflicting.
It's a very strange place.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Uh, but I didn't feel any of that when I was there. As I
Huh.
said, there was something about it. I had joy like I maybe have never experienced. It was really odd.
Well, maybe that's why they've got all that stuff there because the vibe that you picked up on was the organic vibe of the place far outweighs any weird stuff that they're doing. That's how powerful that place is, perhaps. And because you're tuned in the way you're tuned in, your neuro wiring, whatever, allows you to tune into that frequency of that place.
It's the only frequency I want to tune into. I don't
Well,
want to
and
tune
that's a
into the
choice.
ocean.
There you go.
There's
So,
a choice. By the way, I find it extremely ironic, actually pretty funny, that on this cruise, and it was sort of an exploratory type of a cruise. It wasn't a read a book cruise. Um, and it was French, so most of the people were French. They had English speakers, mostly Australians, people from New Zealand, stuff like that. There were only maybe, I don't know, maybe three Americans on, really hardly any Americans. Um, so what they did is they divided up all of the expeditions and the lectures and everything else into French speakers and English speakers. So I didn't really get to meet the English speakers because I do French. And but they had a sign-up sheet one night. You could have a dinner with one of their so-called naturalists, one of their people who were, doing expedition stuff or had special knowledge about the area. So, um, so I'm standing there talking to the person at the reception desk, and I see out of all the papers, there's like one spot left to be with a French-speaking naturalist. And I'm thinking, okay, that's great. I'm going to sign us up for that. And the almost all the English speaking ones were like wide open. I don't know why the English speakers weren't signing up, or I don't know what. As I'm talking to the person, a French guy comes over. Ah, mais oui, on peut dîner avec, whoever the guy was. So he signs himself up. So now all the French spots are filled. I sign up. Okay, fine. I'll sign us up to be at like a table for dinner, probably like 6 people, and maybe this naturalist who goes unnamed. They didn't tell you who you were going to eat dinner with. Show up for dinner that night, and it's just me, my husband, and the naturalist. The naturalist turns out to be the only German on this entire ship.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I lived in Germany, and um, I speak a little German.
If you and Rick Doty and I were in a room together, we could really flummox everybody by speaking German, French, and English and answer each other, and it would be crazy. But okay,
Oh
so go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not fabulous, but I worked for an Austrian princess and I lived in a castle
Well,
in
that's very
Germany.
fabulous. What do you mean? There's more conflicting information. You are fabulous, darling.
Well,
Clearly,
there you go. They were way more fabulous than I was. But
they think.
uh, now what was interesting was that in World War II, when the Russians, the Germany got divvied up, the Russians came in. These are Habsburgs. They took some of their relatives who had castles over in the eastern part. The Russians took over the castles, so all of the family, guess where they went? They all went to Argentina. And when I was in Argentina, when I was in Buenos Aires, we did a tour of only the German architecture in Buenos Aires, and it's everywhere. We saw the Nazi headquarters, which were actually the bank, the official bank of the country, with all kinds of stuff. But anyway, um, so we get the only German on board, and he was lovely. We said, "How did what's your specialty? How'd you get into this?" Well, uh, what did he tell us? He's an accountant or something like that. But he went up to the Arctic Circle, and his job was to protect people on the boats from polar bears. And then he went down to Antarctica and was sort of doing these other naturalist type things down there. And eventually, of course, we say to him, so what do you think about the Fourth Reich? And what Fourth Reich? What are you talking about? He had no clue. Or anything being underground there. And so I started telling him some of the stuff I do, and he seemed genuinely interested by it, which was kind of nice. And anyway, so we finish up our dinner. I go back to the cabin and I decide to watch TV because you could get actual TV. I flip on the first station and it's one of the old episodes of the X-Files. I say, oh, that looks kind of cool. So I keep it, and guess where it takes place?
In Antarctica?
Yes.
Of course.
And this was purely one of those coincidences,
Yeah, sure.
And and David Duchovny, who actually was best friends with a guy I dated in college. So he's there. His role is to save what's her face, Scully,
Yeah.
because she's been taken by aliens apparently. So he slips down here's your word, although I'm going to alter it, crevasse. Okay.
And
And
that's
he goes all the way down, and then suddenly he's in this weird place where there's mechanical equipment and stuff, and he finds Scully. She's in one of those like fluid-filled pods, and barely alive, and he breaks it open, manages to grab her out, and the two of them go running out of this place back through the crevasse. And then it shows them running on in Antarctica. I'm thinking, but wait, I'm here. And they're running away from this area, and then the crevasse opens up and a giant UFO flies up and out because that's where she was being held. I think, oh, all right, well, that's kind of interesting. Next day, we do an expedition, and we did a lot of climbing on, like, we climbed a volcano, we climbed these small, I wouldn't call them mountains, but they were really big hills covered with glaciers. I get all the way up to the summit of this glacier covered hill. And who's standing there but my German? And so I say, hello, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. He says, there's something really weird since I've been up here. Don't get too close to this. He said, there's a crevasse. I said, you kidding? It's right there. Oh, no. Yeah. Anyway, life is a weird thing. And you can put the tapestry together any which way you feel is
Cohesive for you?
yeah, cohesive. That's a good word. So was I able to resolve my question? No, but I think I know enough anyway that I don't feel a real need, not a strong need to resolve it. What I am curious about is why I felt like I went home. I don't know if I did an interview once with Jeffrey Mishlow, and it had to do with getting to know Inga Swan. And I said, one of the strangest things that happened to me, and I don't understand it, and I won't bore you with a whole long story, but I lost 10 years. I don't know where 10 years went. I've been here, as far as I know, I've been fully present. But time frames that I double checked and verified said that's all wrong. That can't be right. It's exactly 10 years. I'm 10 years off. And I have always, in this strange tapestry of things, wondered where the 10 years went.
And that's something that you haven't been able to, I guess, like the Pentagon doing their accounting, their forensic accounting, those 10 years cannot be accounted for. That was very ending a sentence with a preposition again. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of disconcerting. How do you rationalize that? How do you make your fabric not have a big 10-year hole in it
I don't
without
know.
feeling really frustrated?
The only thing that I've been able to even, that has supplied anything at all, and it doesn't seem particularly feasible in my case. They talk about people who've been sent off world
20 and back.
and then given the option, to come back, but memory erased.
That's the 20 and back secret space program. All that stuff does that. The mind wipe, the fracturing, or the removal of part of the consciousness that's the personality and leaving part of the personality so that you've now fractured somebody into two and put them into two different, and use them for whatever you need to, and then you plop them back. I mean, I've heard that story so many times from people who seem literally incredible. Not to me personally. I don't tell people that's ridiculous because I know what it's like on the receiving end of that in a minimal way and how detrimental it can be. Like it's like the ultimate gaslighting. You did not experience that. That's impossible. Oh, ugh, ew. Do you think, I mean, I know that I was given a lot of IQ tests as a small child. And I've done QHHT regressions 3 times.
You come up with any good stuff?
I didn't ask about secret space program. That wasn't one of the questions I went in and asked the practitioner. I didn't ask anything like that. The first time I asked was my general progression, like where do I, like how did it? And then, so that was kind of weird, but it ended up with blue skin, blue people, blue crystalline, crystalline, blue, 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 crystalline. I was babbling about blue and crystalline and something. Second round, I was babbling about flying again, except also feeling like in a hibernation, but while in hibernation, exchanging information with the rocks and the cave and whatever ensconcement my wrapping chose to chill. And then it felt dragony. Um and the third time was with Deb's Shakti, and she just said, "Can I ask how you would call yourself?" And apparently, and I've got it on tape and I don't really remember it, I kind of chuckled and said, "You can call me the all." And I thought, that's weird. And in the drag, right? That's not too puffy there, Miss Ego Tripper. What's going on there? And in the second regression where dragon things happened, I also, she said, from where do you come from, something, and what is your a galactic something. It was a question like that to try to trigger, and I said Anu, and she just decided from the planet Anu, and that's not what I said. All I said was Anu.
You mean like it's on you?
No, like she said, what is your background, like from where do you come? And all I said was Anu, like Anu, like Anu. And then she just assumed that it was a planet. But I'm not so sure that it was a planet that I was discussing. Like, I don't know. Like, when you're in that space, it's not like you can start analyzing and going, well, that's not exactly what I meant.
Right.
It's not the kind of conversation that's going on. It's not actually a conversation. I mean, it is with yourself, um, in a space. So, but I'm still intrigued also, like I know I'm skipping back to you feeling at home in Antarctica. Like, what are the odds that when the landmass broke up, and who knows if this is random, Greg Braden and all these people that talk about the magnetic pole shift and explaining all the layers and how they work inside, and how it causes the land masses to be in constant motion because, right? So that said, when they tectonic plates bang against each other, you have, right, the mount, but when they slide against each other, that's different. So there are two different, I mean, probably more than two, but this kind of activity is ongoing. There's always an earthquake happening somewhere. I mean, look at Greece right now. That's kind of a little side eye at Greece, and Santorini's not think there's some bubbling going on under that island. I don't know.
Mm.
But over how many years has this planet existed? So the shifting land, like, who's to say that that's not Atlantis or Mu, and you're not having a bleed through? Like, that's not too weird. It's
I
not too
number one,
weird.
I agree with you. It's not too weird. Um, it did not occur to me, and I have no idea.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, because the feeling was very, very powerful.
Right, and that's something that's really undeniable. You cannot shake off a vibe just because you can't. It's nothing you can unsee because you don't see it with your eyes. It's nothing you can unhear because it's not an audible sound. However, feelings, energy in motion, emotions, energy in motion. It is. It just is. And when your energy gets kicked into motion seemingly by just existing in connect a point of connection. What are the ley lines doing there? I don't know anything about where ley lines are. What's the activity with the ley lines down there? And the fact that there's so much magnetic activity also speaks to just a lot of energy.
Could be, but it didn't feel like the
Bad.
type
No,
of
I'm not saying,
energy.
no, no, no.
It didn't feel like staticky, too much overwhelming confusion.
No, it's
Didn't feel like
energy
that
of
at all.
creation and ongoing life. It feels more like to me. It's a good thing. It's a more utopic feeling than a dystopic feeling, if
Mhm.
those words could be applied.
Mhm.
Doesn't feel bad. I think that there's certain activity going on down there that doesn't feel good. But there's a big difference between just saying, "Oh, the whole place has nasty vibes." That's not, can't do that.
Not at all.
Can't do that. It's not a brush, it's not a broad general brushstroke. It's a mosaic.
Like many years ago, I went to the Smithsonian to some event, and it had to do with meteors and meteorites, and they let me hold several of them. And they were talking, I think one of them was from Antarctica, maybe. I don't remember, but yeah, I don't know how I got on that track, but I wanted to, I asked them about signing up for work down there. And then the people, now I didn't do it, there were other things that I had to take care of, so that wasn't something that I did, but I absolutely thought about it. And what was I going to say about that? I totally forgot what I was going to say about that. Um,
Okay.
I was willing to, that didn't bother me. I can tell you, cold doesn't bother me. I like cold. I like snow. I mean, as you know, I don't know if you're surrounded by ice right now, but we are. Um, I'm totally comfortable with that. And I don't know why that didn't bother me. It sort of bothers everybody else.
Yeah, but you also had a response to the igloo and your friend saying how warm it was in the back. So that I feel like it's the same kind of trigger that ice is not. I
I don't
mean, it
mind
can
ice.
be if you don't know how to interact with it, but it can be your best friend, keep you warm and all kinds of stuff. Like, so maybe it's a friendly place. Maybe it's, again, it's a bleed through from some other fractal of your soul hub that's bleeding through into this. I'm having a hard time with vocabulary, but I think you're understanding me, whether the audience does or not.
I actually, I had always wanted to do this also. I'm part Swedish in terms of heritage. And so I wanted to go to Sweden, number one, but I also really wanted to go stay in an ice hotel. So we were within the Arctic Circle up in, I guess it must have been Norway or something, which, is the section that's above Sweden, and stayed at this fabulous, fabulous ice hotel. You sleep on a bed made of ice. The furniture is made of ice. There's a there's actually a little chapel there that's made of ice. The bar, which is not that far from the chapel, where you can get your alcoholic drinks in cups made of ice. The everything is made of ice.
You're saying it's not a good place for a nudist colony convention, maybe.
Um,
Like if like
well, if you like,
sitting on the ice, skin to ice is but like what if that famous scene where he puts his tongue on the right and then that and then you can't get up and I don't know, that's just not good to
no, it's
me.
not good. Uh, and they do put some reindeer hides on your bed so you don't stick to your bed.
Exactly. If you like having
Um,
a night sweat in some kind of menopausal fit. It's
but
just-
but but anyway, so we stayed there. We were told, I think we stayed like must have been like 3 nights or something. And whoever was running the place said, "Oh, you have stayed longer than any other guests ever." Because
Really,
normally people do that for one night and say, "Hell no, I'm not
I'm
doing that.
out.
I'm
Yeah.
out." But I loved it. Saw the Northern Lights, went on sleigh rides with reindeer. Um, uh,
Did the reindeer go in the air and did you all have a collective out of body experience with the reindeer?
I could have had an out
A
of body
shared
experience with a
a
reindeer.
shared dream of flying with the reindeer.
No, it's
Did your
great.
husband show up and look at you? Ah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it was really so, but that's my way of saying and dog sledding. Oh my God, that was so much fun. Um, but snow I like. I'm totally fine with snow and ice for some reason.
How do you like sand? I don't like sand. Sand irks me.
It can irk me also, actually. That's funny you say that. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, um, when is this book coming out? Are you still writing it? Are you do your or there's a paper, another paper. Is that what it was? It was a paper. But didn't you say something about a book too that you want to write about the science of
Yeah,
consciousness
I finally decided, well, I have a book that I'm trying to get published actually right now, which is the true story of my trip to Russia for training in psychokinesis
with the wizard?
with the so-called wizard.
We're off to see the wizard. No, it wasn't like that. Leanne, stop it.
He um he apparently is deceased now,
Rest in peace, Mr. Wizard guy.
and apparently was a former nuclear submarine commander for the
Wow.
Soviet Union. Yeah. Um, I
Wow.
don't know. I don't know how much of a wizard he was. I really don't. Um, that's why what you call somebody, what you believe about somebody, what you believe about anything determines reality. Um, so I'm working on that, but I'm also working, this is my latest, decided, you know what, people don't really, I've been trying to teach people how to access this stuff. And as I said to you, I think at some point, you have to speak somebody's language in order for them to hear you. And so
Right. How
for
do you take
me,
hermetic principles and put it in the value language of society and make them understand that what you're thinking and believing is directly related to why woo-woo people say we're creators, because that's how it works. Um,
yeah, and I'm very tired of people saying, dismissing anything because, oh, that's just anecdotal. Well, what
I'm
do you
so
think?
sorry that's happening to you. I really like, this is the lady with the telepathy tapes. Can you imagine how much crap she got pushed back? It's so exhausting. In a different compartment, I've felt pushback. So I have a lot of empathy and compassion for what you're saying. And I just wanted to say, don't stop, don't give up. And I know how tired it can make you feel, but literally, I don't know you, but I have so much love for you and so much respect and so much appreciation and gratitude for the things that you're doing and the things that you're allowing me to speak with you about here. Um, because I think those are the big things that will ultimately allow people to give themselves permission to shift out of whatever this is. So thank you so much for doing and saying and writing and bringing forward. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. And yeah, it's, when it's like what you were saying before about your high IQ status. You could be, you could, and I also, I've been told that mine was pretty good. So, but I don't know what it was. All I know, well, forget it. But anyway, but the point is, when you know you're not dumb, and you know that you've had the courage to explore certain unexplored areas because you had the courage. You weren't put off by them, and you didn't shut them down. Um, and when people shut down any discussion of those things, it's very, very discouraging, and they dismiss it as being, well, it's anecdotal, it's not statistical. Actually, yeah, it is statistical too, if you take the time to read the the literature. it's very statistical. People don't want to see it. They don't want to read it. They're operating out of their own assumptions. So what I have, my next project is that I am going to demonstrate how remote viewing works, and particularly what I've been doing, for example, is doing like little mini remote viewings. So I work at a local place, um, and have for the last few years, and I do your typical sort of psychic readings, except, and people, or mediumship. I mean, people walk in with whatever they're gonna walk in with. But when I have the time, as a little experiment, because I run lots of experiments, I will scribble down whatever on a pad of paper before each client walks into the room. I have no idea who they are. I don't know, nothing. And I'll just write down all the crazy stuff that's flying around in my head for absolutely no good reason, which any normal, sane person would say, oh, well, that's ridiculous. Because, yeah, of course it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because it's without a context.
Right. It goes
Um,
back to we live in a place that's obsessed with being linear and empirical. Like, so when you put that aside and you get, it's not outrageous.
no. Well, what I've been doing, because I wanted to test, I don't want to assume that it's not outrageous. I want to test. Are my little crazy thoughts crazy or are they not? So I test. And what I've been doing is testing with clients for several years, and it's unbelievable. Some of this, I'll give you one example. I particularly like this example. I had a client, and I scribbled down a bunch of things. I don't have them in front of me, but it had to do with, I wrote down the words Formula One. Now, highly unlikely from a statistical point of view, because most of the people who are requesting readings are women. So Formula One, I didn't even know what Formula One was. I knew it was somehow associated with racing, but I didn't know what it was. Um, I wrote down racing, and then I didn't know why. Why am I talking racing around in a rush to get things done, or whatever? Um, and there was some other operative word in there. And usually the person will come in with a particular issue. The particular issue it just had to do with sort of romantic love life type issues. Okay, nothing to do with any of this little stuff I scribbled down in advance before ever meeting or knowing who this person was. So I said, look, part of my job that I've learned over the years is I have to tell you anything crazy. I know it's going to sound crazy. I get it. I understand crazy. I really do. I'm actually trained in understanding crazy. But my job is to do this because I have learned over the years that crazy weirdly translates into reality. So
Accurate. Right.
here's and I told her, this is what I said, does this make any sense to you? Formula One, I don't even know what it is. Is racing? I mean, it's crazy. And she just looked at me like, okay, she said, that's my romantic interest is that's his thing, is Formula One. I still don't know what Formula One is. She said, I used to work for NASCAR and I race racing cars. And we're all fanatic about it. Now, where in the universe does that come from? Okay. I don't believe that's necessarily stuff that's just coincidentally, to use our coincidence word, floating down in the ethers. You have to set your frequencies to a certain degree where the data is going to be picked up. Now, the question, we don't understand yet why setting a frequency to a particular level is going to allow you to access actual concrete data about people and events. We don't have an explanation, but it has to do with, I mean, it has to do with that sort of, it's not quite like attracts like, but in
But
a
it's
sense it
tuning
is.
in like it's more like the radio station dial, like dialing in,
And
tuning in.
it's very strange. If you don't even know what you're tuning into, that's even stranger.
It's like flipping a dial and stopping and just taking whatever
and
you get for
stopping.
whatever rando reason it comes in, but just that's what tuned to that, and that's what you write down.
Correct.
That
And that goes back to what I was saying at some point. I was telling you about your psychic abilities and your ability, but a lot of that derives from the fact that you're not setting up barriers to some of those connections that you get automatically through your intuition. You're not setting up judgmental barriers on them.
no,
Most people do.
that's why random like 3 times I can come up with that dead people talked to me and I had to tell somebody something because they don't stop. Like once you've hooked up,
Right.
they won't stop until you
For you,
like talk
yes.
about telling people weird stuff, texting somebody and saying Alfie says all the way, I don't know what that means, but I think it has to do with the competition you're participating in right now. Like and you may go to the wire is what it sounds like, but I don't want to tell you that because who tells a contestant on American Idol or America's Got Talent that your dead brother just came and told me to tell you? Like,
Right.
but like the false hope
Yeah.
percentage there is
Yep.
is like
Totally
toying with
agree.
somebody's life
Yep.
identification. Like, but it wouldn't stop. I was like, Savion, I'm really sorry. Like, but he says he's okay and told you to tell your mama he's okay. Like, the guy got brutally murdered. It's not
Yeah.
good. Anyway, so that was one of the times. And my mom's friend who lived across the street told me she was gone. And then I tried to shake it off and I went on Facebook and opened it up to her daughter announcing that her mother had passed away the night before. I'm just going, oh, yeah, really? Okay. You know, couple weird precog things where I heard something in my head and then went and experienced the exact same thing in the future, not far future. But it's really not controlled, like I said. So I don't know. Um, if I can ever offer myself, I told this to Richard Doty, which is a little scary because who knows who his friends are. Like I said, if there's anything that you feel that my natural ability um would assist, like in it is if how can I help? Like, I don't mind being a guinea pig is a bad word, but you know what I mean. If I can assist in any way, please do let me know. How can I help? I'm happy to.
I understand.
It's one of the things that I kind of don't mind when I choose to is you know, the ability to put yourself and what you think you need and all this stuff to the side long enough to just do something. It's like it'll all be there when you go back, so stopping to take care of my mom instead of just tossing her someplace, you know. I had the luxury of being able to do that. Certain things that you just put yourself, but that said, at a certain point, you got to stop doing that and then do everything that you did for everybody else for yourself. And the self-reliance thing is a big thing, especially for women, I feel like, in this
But
world.
what are we talking about?
I'm talking about now self-reliance and the idea that you can give yourself permission to get off the hamster wheel long enough to change with the information that you have. Like you can always go back to the old behavior if the new stuff isn't working for you. But most of the time when people bother to do the work, they don't want to go back because it becomes very addictive to delve into these things and feeling better and knowing that you're the cause of your own better feelings and not triggered by outside stuff anymore. It's kind of like, and if something that we talk about can help people self-realize and self-reflect just a little bit, you know. And I feel like it's out of context what I'm saying, but it's not. It goes back to like being open enough to the subtle whatever it is to be able to reach in and be empathic and see things, you know. But people also like that energy, you know, that when people talk about energy vampires, people who are empathic also tend to attract people that like to take three while you're giving them, you know, you think you're giving them one, they're taking three, and then you're exhausted. Like there's that kind of thing too.
I don't think I ever had that problem. Because number one, I certainly I taught psychic development and mediumship for many years in Manhattan in the tri-state area, like
Mm.
monthly. And I used to teach groups of people. Some of them had never had any psychic experience and wanted to know how you do it. Some of them had had experiences, but were, crushed by their families who were blaming them for, essentially being
A wizard.
witches or wizards. Yeah. And for doing terrible things and simply when they were predicting and seeing things that they didn't know why. And then other people who were clearly way more advanced than I ever was. And I remember one particular um, class that I was teaching, I had everybody sitting in this really big circle, and there were two guys. They both had like, I don't know, 40 years of experience doing mediumship work, I think. And immediately the two of them, and they're on opposite sides of the circle, they both announced that they both have these hideous headaches. And after a little bit of investigation, turned out that each one of them was sitting next to a person who was suffering from some type of a massive headache. In other words, that was my hello, how do you do to empaths. I said to myself, and I have many friends who are empaths, but I don't think I'm an empath. Because, and I think part of, people have asked me being a psychic detective, working on homicide cases and that kind of stuff. How do you do it? I do it because for me, I'm very intellectual. I mean, that was my upbringing. That's a big part of who I am. I'm just analytical. And so I look at things like puzzles. I'm not feeling them,
Mm.
which is why I know I can, I mean, that's why I'm very impressed with your ability to, you just go straight into the raw feeling. I don't really do that. I've got this whole other like mechanism. However, my mechanism allows me to shut it down at will, whereas probably not so much for you.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like the faucet, like that, okay, time to, like, I know that there's a faucet that I can turn somewhere. I just have to
Yeah, there is.
grope for it a little bit. Um, but the thing is like all that empath stuff that I do, it always leads me to a linear conclusion afterwards,
Mm,
right? That's when the linear kicks in after, and I think, oh, then that must be because this breadcrumb and then that feeling and that right there. I'm
right.
just like that. We're done.
That's what I've had to teach myself how to do.
Interesting. And I need to teach myself how to organize and be more, not analytical, because I do that too, but just more, maybe more organized in my intellectualizing. Like I don't, my mom was very intellectual and very conceptual, and very not comfortable when she had to cry. She'd get all like, constipated emotionally. Like, mom, right? It's like des caca nerveux, mais ça va pas. Let it out, man. And she used to tell me like so many times, even when you were a little child, you'd see me get upset and you'd say, Mama, let it out, cry, it's okay. You know, because she wasn't. She was very like emotionally retentive. And on the flip side of that, very controlling, you know. But she was also very intuitive. So it's kind of a balance, you know. I watched somebody know that she knew because she said, when I write music, it comes through me. I'm not, she knew that. But she was also so like born in 1923, you know, different education, graduated high school at 15 years old. That's also uncomfortable being 15 years old, hanging around with a bunch of more mature 17 and 18-year-olds who are dating and you're like still, I don't know, a lot of her.
Yeah, when I showed up for my first day at college, I noticed that there were a ton of little 14 and 15-year-olds running around. And I said, "Oh no, this is not a good sign. It means that these are a whole bunch of little geniuses running around."
The emotional quotient kind of sometimes is not bolstered, and then you get a little intellect genius heavy, and then
Right.
the disconnect. I think it's all three. See, like, and you'll know better than I because you've researched it more. But there can't be psychic activity, I don't think, without emotional plug-in at some level. Can there? Is it just a purely thought-based thing with no emotions involved? Is it a purely emotional thing with no thoughts involved? Like it's
I would, yeah, having an emotion to go with it makes a lot of sense, and it can help for sure. Certainly is the basis for all like empathic information for sure. But uh yeah, I think you can get, I wouldn't say it's not thought-based. What I would say based on, my research is it's sensory based.
I almost want to say it's ether based. It's that's that fifth element that we don't talk about.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about what's the mechanism that allows you to pick it up? And
I don't know,
it's
like
not thinking
maybe
about
like
it.
cannabinoid system that gets lit up when you use marijuana. Maybe there's some kind of crystal pressure, some kind of like nano crystals involved that are getting pressure. Like I don't know, like when you do the breathing, like the Joe Dispenza meditation where I did the breathing and then I didn't like how he sounded. I thought he sounded silly, so I just kind of went, whatever. And as soon as I thought the word whatever, next thing I know, I'm like shooting down this tube and there's colors. And I'm like, it was really weird. Like I might as if somebody told me, oh, we just dropped some ayahuasca in your hot milk tonight, lady. Like I would have gone, okay. Like now I understand why that happened. But you know, you want to get science. If you put the right pressure on the pineal gland and you get the cilia to start vibrating, right? Then they're are they receiving? Are they transmitting? Did it squirt some DMT? I don't know what happened. Like, doctor, you tell me. It's
Yeah, I
weird.
mean, I would have no idea what happened to you at that point. Whatever that was,
It,
you released the controls.
I definitely released the controls, if not a little pineal gland orgasm, pineal gasm, something. I don't know. If it does that, then I think that's what I did because I sure was putting the pressure on. you know it definitely woke something up, and I know in my lifetime too, like if we're talking about chakra systems now I've flipped into some of different department, but there have been times where like in my root chakra I literally feel like a zzz. And it's not like I don't need to go to the OBGYN, guys. There's nothing wrong there. It's not what's going on, but it's an energetic, like I feel like in my there's a vibration like a zzz thing. Sometimes I felt it in my solar plexus and I felt it in my root chakra and I feel like I've felt it like up here too. Does that sound too whacked out? Too much?
No, it's not too whacked out. I'm thinking about it. I have not experienced that as a chakra thing.
It's a neurological problem. Go get a checkup.
Could be a neurological problem.
I think life is a neurological problem. Oh my God.
Um, I know that, well, I mean, the whole humming thing, if that's a plasma thing.
I've also had interesting, the bumblebee breath that you do. Do you know bumblebee breath?
No.
I can't remember what it's called, but I'm also not a yogini by trade, so I
Is that the
be
breath of
fast.
fire?
It's the breath where mm,
Oh,
right, you
okay.
do a vibration in the first couple breaths, you like get the vibration going through your sinuses, but the more you do it, the more deeply it starts resonating. And I was taking Iyengar yoga, and usually at the end of yoga classes, the teacher will let you do like a little rest time. Well, this class happened to be in person, like on the Zoom where everybody could see each other. And at the end of the meditation, I went somewhere. I don't know where I went, but I went somewhere. And so when we all woke up, because you see my personality, I came out of it and I was all like, hmm. And they just looked at me. They said, where did you go? You're completely different right now. But there was something about that. And the vibration I was doing deep in my chest and my whole thing is similar feeling sound. The sound, the way the sound felt in my body is the same way I feel these vibrations. It's not in my spine and it's not in the front. It's like between my spine and my organs is the only way I can explain it.
That's really interesting. I wonder if you could experiment with that and to see if you can isolate the areas of the humming and then uh, coordinate it with whatever psychic imagery you're picking up. That would be really
Interesting. I never
interesting.
thought to do that. But
Yeah, yeah, because well,
that's
for
what happens
whole
when we have nice conversations with people who are, yeah, different ideas. And then maybe we come up with something that works for somebody, me. And
yeah, well, you get closer to maybe identifying what's going on uh, and what the mechanisms are.
like it's happened a lot back in LA. It happened when I would do dishes. Sometimes running water triggers it. Water. I have a really weird relationship with water.
Mhm.
Not weird. I have a very close relationship with water. I love water. Like it scares me. Like the ocean frightens me, but running water, the negative like that, I love that. And I do my best higher thinking and conceptualizing when I'm doing the dishes. And sometimes in tandem, that vibration happens.
What about the shower?
I don't notice the vibration in and underwater because the frequency of and the movement of the running water would overpower probably because my focus is on the external water hitting my body. So the my attention isn't internal, it's more external. Like Randy Weitenheimer, do you know who he is? There's a guy named Randy, he works with energy. Um, And one of the things he told me to do is, when you wake up in the morning, to get in a cold shower for 3 minutes, and at night, get in a cold shower for 3 minutes, and you do it for 40 days straight. And if you screw up, you got to start again, like 6:30 in the morning, and then again, and then go to sleep, get in bed, make sure your lights are out, 10:30 at night, hours before midnight, which is something I grew up hearing. It's the hours before midnight when you sleep that does the most beneficial, whatever. Okay. So, but I can tell you, as crazy as my friends thought I was for a good year, like I wasn't great with waking up at 6:30 and going to sleep at 10:30. That's where I was off a little bit, but I definitely hit the 40-day mark at some point. Um, and then it just became normal to just get in a cold shower in the morning and get in a cold shower at night. And there's something about the cold water and the running water bookending your day that ensconces you frequentially with that element.
Mm, like a sandwich,
Yes. And then there's dream time that's also ensconced because
right?
it's like and it's almost like a Venn diagram of sleep and wake with the cold water on either. That's how it's coming to me right now. I never would have described it like that last year or whenever.
Hmm.
I've gone back to taking warm, hot soaks. In salt water, though. In salt water. I like to soak in salt water lately because it's very cleansing. And there's something about salt and water and intention that definitely affects out here. As woo-woo as that sounds.
Hang on one second. My cat is trying to get out. Hold on.
Kitty!
Yeah, big giant kitty. Hold on.
I miss kitties. Like kitties. I think that was Catus interruptus.
Yes, a message has been delivered under my door.
Uh-oh.
There
Well,
you
that must be my cue to say
go.
bon appetit, and we can leave this to some follow-up, perhaps, if you have the bandwidth at some point, because I
Sure.
find you fascinating and friendly and just lovely.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Sincerely. Yeah, no, I'd be happy to do that.
And if I'll come back at you with the vibrations and if I'm getting any kind of information in tandem with the vibrating, like and what that from where that comes, and I don't know. We'll poke around.
I'll tell you, I think you might possibly I think you'll find some answers there. That's my, let's say, hunch.
I would tend to trust your hunches. I think,
Um,
knowing what I know about you.
and also, I mean, I remember Ingo telling me a long time ago that he was at a certain point because he was very wide open, kind of like you in some ways, and he things were just he couldn't control them. They were just getting too whatever. So he went and saw somebody who said, "Oh my God," he walked in the room. "Oh my God, your all of your chakras are just way out of whack." Every single one of them. So what they did is they, I think closed up some, readjusted some, got them sort of in sync, and made a really big difference for him. He wasn't listening to humming,
Hmm.
but the humming is, I would imagine, it's going to be indicative of frequencies that are either working in tandem or not.
Right, like that makes sense. Like I wish it were coming in some kind of an audible note in my head. That happens too. Certain frequencies I'll hear just out of nowhere, and it's not tinnitus. It's not tinnitus. Sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, feeling weird, like zzz. Like, there's no noise to it. It's just a zzz.
yeah.
It's like if you stick your fingers in a, please don't do this, in an outlet and feel a zzz. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Um, all right, look. On that crazy note, thanks for joining us, everybody. Nancy, thank you so much for spending time with
William.
me.
Thank you. Really nice. Look forward to the next step.
Yeah, me too, man. Like you and
Yeah.
Richard and I'll have to do something together sometime. That'll be crazy. All right. Bye
All
for
right.
now.
Thank you. All
Thanks.
right. Talk to
Bye.
you soon.
Well, you heard her. She's out. She's gonna go eat food now. Thank you so much for joining me on Riding the Frequency. I hope that conversation was of interest to you guys. I could talk to her for another 5 hours. You're probably saying thank you for not doing that. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll have her back at some point. So until then, you guys keep riding the frequency. And remember, you're the evidence.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you warm? You warm?
Frequency, frequency, frequency. Frequency. Are you ready to ride the frequency? Are you ready to ride the frequency?